Let's say you're in the bed at 2 a.m. This attack happens, which is when they generally occur. And you get an email that tells you, hey, you're getting attacked. You need to pay attention to this. Well, that would be great if you were sitting there in front of your computer. But when you're asleep, that doesn't do much good. And then by the time you get in to work the next morning, you find out you're underwater.
What are some of the major tools or software platforms that a customer could use in the EDR world?
Yeah, well, there are three.
What is going on? It's Jay and Michael here on the IT Directors Podcast with our VP of Engineering today, Michael Gray. Michael, how's it going?
Hey, so glad to be with you guys. It's going great.
Man, look, this is going to be a great episode. You know, we've touched on cybersecurity in the past, Michael. We've touched on, just high level kind of a lot of topics in cybersecurity. But today we're going to focus on antivirus versus EDR and XDR versus EDR. So, that's a pretty focal point. That's a very focused area in cybersecurity, XDR versus EDR. So we're going to open up. Just tell us a little bit about kind of your role at Clearwinds, Michael, and kind of what you do, and then we'll get into to the topic today.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm head over the engineering team and our security operations center, which is directly related to what we're talking about today. Got a great group of guys that help us accomplish our goals. So excited to talk about it. Antivirus, XDR, EDR is a very confusing topic in the industry as people are trying to learn to adopt and make and grow into the more modern, new age technology out there. So great timing, great topic.
Yeah, I mean, so Michael, what do you like? We hear these terms all the time, right? Especially in the engineering world when we're meeting with customers, and when Michael and his sales team is talking, and we hear these terms with antivirus and XDR, EDR, and I think it's really confusing to the average person.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, because there's a baseline of acceptance for antivirus software, and so when we're out talking to people and meeting with different organizations, different groups, people accept antivirus. Anything else, it's like, what's all this alphabet soup you're throwing out there? What do these letters even mean? You're just making stuff up.
Yeah, making stuff up.
So I'd say if you can give us broad understanding of antivirus, that's what it's accepted. But at least if you could give us your definition of that. So now when we start looking at the other stuff. So broad definition, what is antivirus software?
Yeah, so antivirus software is, of course, it was the legacy, the traditional technology that is derived and based upon file level, signature level identification, meaning the threat was in the wild. Signatures were created to defend against it and deployed to the desktop for that. So pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good, but technology has evolved. The speed is more needed today than the time it would take for a traditional signature-based solutions.
So the speed has evolved. What does that mean?
Yeah, so everything is quicker today.
Mm-hmm.
A device that we had just 3 years ago, that one if you buy today, it's going to run faster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as the machines run faster, the bad guys' availability or capabilities to infect gets faster.
Mm-hmm.
So the delays and the lags of developing the technology to help combat those, it's just not good enough in today's environment.
Okay. Yeah. And so that antivirus, I think that's why I guess it's been the standard for a while, but the speed, that's no longer enough. Is that a fair statement? Yeah. So then EDR, what's the difference between antivirus and EDR?
Yeah, excellent. So AV, because antivirus has an acronym too.
Oh,
AV.
it's got some letters as well.
Yeah,
so,
AV.
don't want to leave him out.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So
It's kind of like the flu shot. AV is kind of like the old flu shot syndrome, right, Mike?
balance, yeah, it is. You have like those signatures. There's mutations
Yes.
from the major variants, but migrating from AV antivirus to EDR is like flipping the light switch on or off. So it's a huge shift in the way those attacks are dealt with. Number one, you go from file signature based defenses to heuristic, meaning it's more behavioral, more real time. So you're able to adapt the technology's thinking, looking at what you're doing, being able to identify stuff that's not normal, and takes and make that identification number one. So its ability to respond is faster. The thing about EDR that sets it apart from the traditional AV is not only can it identify threats quicker, but it also has a feature called response, which is the R in EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response. So it can now not only detect what's going on, but instead of sending you a report that says, hey, you're getting eaten or you're getting taken to the cleaners, the R takes action. So it will automatically, if you configured as such, to isolate the device if it can't clean it. So a huge shift in the way that works. So if the response, so it's good that they're able to detect and let you know that there's an attack happening. But let's say you're in the bed at 2 a.m. And this attack happens, which is when they generally occur, and you get an email that tells you, hey, you're getting attacked. You need to pay attention to this. Well, that would be great if you were sitting there in front of your computer. But when you're asleep, that doesn't do much good. And then by the time you get in to work the next morning at 8, 7, 8, 9, whatever, then you find out you're underwater. Everything has been contaminated. So the R, the response, is crucial in being able to defend oneself in today's landscape.
Mike, now that we've talked about AV and EDR and what they do and kind of the differences, what are some of the tools that our IT directors that are listening and watching the show, what are some of the major tools or software platforms that a customer could use in the EDR world?
Yeah, well, there are three that have been tried and tested and proven very valuable. SentinelOne is probably the top of the list of those three. Then you have CrowdStrike, and then Carbon Black. The three that are very reputable. Like I said, they've been proven. So as long as someone's running one of those three, there are several that are out there, but those are the three that would be the top of the list.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, those are in the Magic Quadrant, and those are the three big players, Michael, Thomas, and most of our people listening or watching, if they're going into EDR, they have EDR, they probably have one of those three.
They should.
They should. Yeah. So now that we've kind of laid the foundation, and especially for our viewers, because I think it's so great that we're going over antivirus, EDR, and now we're going to talk about XDR. So what is the difference between XDR and EDR?
So EDR is for the traditional workspace. So that's PCs, that's servers that are in the office. Of course, we say traditional. That traditional seems to be evolving. So, I guess you could still call that the traditional workspace. Well, we've moved to the modern, which now includes the devices and equipment that's also in the cloud. So XDR encompasses both on-premise and cloud, the cloud infrastructure. So SharePoint, OneDrive, your emails that are in the cloud, whether Gmail, 365. Let's say you have Intune registered devices or cloud registered devices. the XDR helps protect against attacks in that arena.
Yeah, so it kind of goes, a whole extra step, right?
Mhm.
Versus the XDR, it's extended, basically, right? So it gives you more visibility and a brighter scope of devices, just like Michael talked about, stuff in the cloud, stuff that's not on-prem, and emails. So, now we've kind of narrowed all that down. So who needs what and why? You know what I mean? That's the big question. So a lot of companies, do I need XDR, Michael? Do I need EDR, or do I need just AV? Like, what, in your opinion, in your wealth of knowledge, like, who needs what? Like, what was a scenario where someone doesn't need XDR and they can just utilize EDR? Or so what do you think about that?
Well, it would be based upon those two scenarios that I was presented.
Yeah.
So if one doesn't have a huge cloud presence, then EDR is the ticket. So, meaning they don't have, their systems aren't in the cloud. So they're just on-prem.
Okay.
Email is, if the only thing that's in the cloud is email, then I would still say that XDR would not be needed for that. But it would be typically only if you start moving from the office to the cloud for your day-to-day activities. Your file shares, your websites that maybe cloud developed sites, devices that are cloud only, cloud registered and managed and controlled. So that would be the way that I believe everybody would be wise to sort of help that maybe be a differentiator.
I think that's key, is trying to understand, like, hey, who's a good candidate for what. I think from a sales standpoint, what we encounter is, since people typically accept antivirus, it's viewed as, well, you're just trying to upsell me and sell me something else. Well, hey, no, we're not. Like, we've seen real life scenarios where this actually kept people from getting compromised, or kept them from falling prey to a bigger attack that could have crippled an organization. And so, like, yes, there's some buy-in there, but then hearing, like, okay, yeah, there are certain cases where each one applies. And I feel like that's key, because it's an industry where, like, hey, where there's the unknown, you can be suspicious of,
that's right,
do I actually need this or not?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the context.
Well, and then also too, Michael, there's, like, us at Clearwinds, right? We're an organization that services our customers, right? We propose these solutions, whether it be XDR, EDR. We do a lot of that. But for your government, your K-12, your municipalities, even some of our healthcare clients, XDR can be pretty costly. It does have a higher cost than EDR. So give us an example, Michael, where you've seen a customer maybe that didn't go the XDR route and it hurt them, or they wasn't sure whether they need XDR or EDR, and how that impacted day-to-day operations, because a lot of people have stuff in the cloud, they don't even really realize it. They a lot of customers and organizations run more in the cloud than we actually know.
Yeah, no, that's good. And to your point, Michael, there is some skepticism in the marketplace, and that falls on us as messengers, is to improve our messaging, to help lay out the differences and help explain them. And at the end of the day, they have those choices, but to be able to articulate in a manner that's easy to understand.
Yeah.
One thing before we jump into XDR that we haven't mentioned yet, the three letters, is MDR. So, which is the managed detection and response. So one could have, which I think would probably be a little more credence than XDR discussion really right here, is the ability for a client to have the EDR on their device is exceptional. But what do you do with it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Who's going to answer that call at 2 a.m. On the EDR? We just said the difference between an AV and EDR is the response mechanisms. Well, so let's say that something does come across at 2 a.m. and I can give a specific example of this.
where your legacy antivirus solution sent an email that stated they were noticing something unusual. They need to check this. And of course, it came in the wee hours of the morning. The client, when they got to the office, had found that all of their systems had been encrypted. In other words, useless and taken offline. So they end up purchasing an EDR solution, and we help them manage that. So they had a similar attempt, and because they had not only the EDR, but it being managed by someone who's looking at it 24/7, we were able to not only detect the event, isolate the device, but prevent the scenario from where it spread through their system. So it turned into be an annoyance for one or two people as opposed to,
the whole organization. Yeah.
Walk into the organization the next day. So the managed piece, it's with any tool. I could go to the tool shop and buy Makita. I can buy a set of the most expensive tools that are made, put them in a toolbox, go sit them right there in my carport. And if I don't use them, if I'm not managing, if I'm not looking at them, what good have they done me?
Mm-hmm.
I can say, I got me a set of, I got the best tools out there. What do you do with them? I don't know.
No.
Sit over there in the shed.
But they look good over there.
Yeah. So it's not just the acquisition of tools. And that's where managed services, that's where your partners come into play and helps not only advise you on what the best tool is for the job, but also help you deploy it, manage it, and enable it to do what you bought it for, protect you, safeguard you. And that's key. That's very key. So, that's an aspect of these tools that we didn't want to. I wanted to make sure we brought that out because that is crucial.
No, look, crucial. I'm telling you, that is fantastic what Michael talked about, because we can sell solutions, we can provide the solutions to customers or organizations, but without someone managing those solutions, they're really still just a solution sitting there. And they do have the response, they do have some intelligence around how they do things, but without someone managing that, they're still not as good as what they could be. That's a great point that Michael brought up. And hey, for our listeners, that's why Michael's the VP of engineering. You know what I mean? He thinks about those things because, you can't just, give someone a tool and then not manage it or not show them how to utilize it.
And then another thing you bring up as well is that education aspect.
Correct.
Even part of our organization, something our CEO preaches is, hey, we want to be a trusted advisor. So our goal here is not just we're going to make a sale and try to make some money off of it. No, hey, we want to actually help people. We want to be in that position where we can be a trusted advisor and provide a solution that's actually going to benefit them, and then educate them for why.
Well, if you walked around the airport about a year and a half ago and you saw all the blue screens and all the monitors in there, that was someone not managing one of the EDR tools. They had a major catastrophe, right? It kind of stopped everything in the world for like a day and a half. And so, but if you have people managing these solutions, and I think, and that's so good. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think I know me as an IT director before in my old role, I would buy this solution and tool and I'm thinking, this is great. But then if I wasn't watching or someone managing it, it really didn't serve the purpose that it was designed to do. So I think having training and people tied to those tools, and that's where partnerships with like Clearwinds and what we can bring to the table for people is having that managed piece. And look, antivirus, XDR, and EDR, these are all tools to accomplish tasks, but having that managed services tied to it that Michael mentioned is huge. That's really big. I think what are some things that you've seen, Mike, with the XDR, how you feel that it is just real world practicality for our IT directors, like how you feel that it differentiates itself, just what you've seen in a real world example?
Well, again, it is the shift of where the day-to-day business is operating. So if business has shifted their infrastructure to the more of a cloud-driven environment, that's where this XDR comes into play. So, it has the capabilities of doing just what EDR does, except in the cloud space. So, it can detect I've got a SharePoint file that I uploaded and I wasn't careful, and I've got it publicly exposed. It's it can be accessed from anywhere. And let's say it's a confidential document.
Yeah.
Well, So, those tools can help identify that type of behavior. Like, hey, it looks like you got a document that's being accessed from Beijing. Is that, you may want to look at that.
Yeah.
So it provides that component. But again, if one has shifted, and that's their their major platform of doing business, and we see a lot of customers and a lot of people in the industry heading that way. But that's some of the bigger components. It's the notification now. Depending on which cloud platform one leverages, that notification is capable there. The problem is trying to find it and get it configured, whereas these tools do that for you.
What is an XDR tool? We talked about some EDR tools. What is one or two XDR tools that you've worked with or that we've seen have success?
Yeah, well, Checkpoint has a product. SentinelOne has a product that either one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
XDR is just like EDR was when it first came out.
Yeah,
it's gaining traction. They're evolving and adjusting. It's growing, but you typically understand the players, their roles in security, and they're going to usually be your frontiers and the ones that you would be safe with selecting. So you've got, of course, Palo Alto. We can't talk about security and exclude Palo Alto.
Exactly.
As they are widely known in most circles as the premier security, one of the premier security companies in the world. So, those are some things when you look at in these tool sets as you're trying to make your decision is how wide is the scope? So is this company based in the United States or do they have presence around the world? So the more global the company is, then the more valuable the information you're going to get for the tool set.
That's a good point.
And it's going to really increase what it brings to the table. So it's just evaluating, but that's and I know some of you out there listening go, oh my, you're spinning got my eyes spinning, but that's where you come in. We come into play and we help with help you decipher some of this. And then again, one tool is not for everything. It's it just depends on the environment that we find ourselves in. Trying to defend.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Michael, in closing, Michael Thompson, I mean, this is going to be a great episode for our listeners and viewers because I think it's great information that the average IT director probably doesn't know. Because just because you're a director, you're running a data center, you're a CIO, you maybe not be a cybersecurity expert, right? And that's why we have the SOC team. That's why you have all these different. So the information that Michael has shared here is invaluable, I think, to our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's key back to that education aspect. You want your people, and I call our people, I call our partners. Those are our people as well. We like to view ourselves as even an extension of their own team, but we want them to know the tools that we're providing, recommending, really because. And we're genuine in that, hey, we want to have their best interest in mind and make the recommendations that are actually going to benefit them the most.
If you could have one takeaway for our listeners, Mike, as we close, just one thing about the XDR versus EDR and antivirus, just one nugget, one thing. What would you want to share to that IT director that's out there trying to figure out how to protect their organization and how to, in these challenges of all the cybersecurity stuff's going on, AI. I mean, what's one thing that you would like to share with them?
Well, I would be remiss in not saying this. Contact Clearwinds.
Yeah,
And
I
we
love
would
it.
be, very willing and able to assist in that determination, because one thing about technology is there's no such thing as one answer for every scenario. So it would have to be based upon that specific scenario. And that's one thing we pride ourselves on here at Clearwinds as well, is we're not we tailor it. It's because that's the way the technology works best.
Yeah.
So that would really be the biggest takeaway. Say, reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you and help you craft a solution that'll meet your needs.
Man, that's fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for joining. I think our listeners and viewers are going to love this episode. I think they're going to gain a lot of knowledge about, XDR versus EDR and how it can benefit the organization, when to engage us as a partner, and a resource for that. Because, look, I can tell you this. I didn't make that decision, Michael, on my own when I was looking at all that. We had Checkpoint in my previous organization. Thankfully, we didn't have CrowdStrike, so that didn't cause me a lot of havoc during that time. But that's a great product too. They just had a security situation. But look, we thank you for being on, Michael, so much. Your wealth of knowledge is really vast, and that's kind of that's why we wanted to have you on today.
Yes, sir.
Well, enjoyed being here. Yeah, enjoyed being here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. Look, to all of our listeners and viewers, keep following the show, the IT Directors Podcast on LinkedIn, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. And this is Jay and Michael with Clearwinds, and we are out. Hey, thanks for joining us today on the IT Directors Podcast. We're so glad you joined us. Look, go follow us on all social media platforms. The IT Directors Podcast, powered by Clearwinds. And look, if you want more information, check out our website, clearwinds.net. We're going to have show notes, special guest bios. We're going to have reels. Our marketing team has done a fantastic job. Go check this out. We're so thankful that you joined us today.